Dear Jordan Peterson, I hope very much by a miracle you get to see this video. I've been following your explorations for several years now, as has been my husband. We are special needs autism parents, so we've been through a lot, and that's why we started listening to your talks on courage and adventure and taking on the maximum responsibility that you can handle, and I think the Lord has graced us with that in our daughter. She's almost nonverbal with significant autism. So I want to do my best to express a thought that I had after listening to some of your latest podcasts, and I think maybe this will be something that you can incorporate. You already incorporate it into your videos and your talks, perhaps consciously, perhaps unconsciously, I don't know. So I've been thinking about how can one come to know God in his reality, and you said something that really struck me. You said, well, what do you mean by real? When people ask you all the time, how is God real? Is God real? And you said, well, what do you mean by real? And I just started thinking about something. In my life, I noticed that when I have an attitude of joy, it's different than happiness, of course, you know that. When I have an attitude of joy, I am mirroring things that I notice in the Bible, attitudes that people have in terms of going through hard times. It's an attitude of joy, and I just was exploring like, okay, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to be joyful? And I started thinking about this one passage it's in Mark, the death of Jesus, when he yells out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, and that means, my God, why have you forsaken me? And it's so interesting because God is asking, why did God forsake him? And the thing is that is a psalm, and it's possible that Jesus, while he was dying on the cross, sang that, my God, why have you forsaken me? Because the Psalms were sung. And when you look at the book of Psalms, there's a lot of times this dual structure, where the beginning will be, my God, why have you forsaken me? I'm at the point of death. I'm like those in the grave. My friends have abandoned me. A lot of times that's the first part. And the second half, but you are my refuge. I trust in you. You are my light, and I will not be afraid. That's that dual structure of suffering and trust. And I think that dual structure has to do with joy. Joy has to be freely chosen. So in the Garden of Eden, we were given free will, but we chose materialism, happiness, and to walk away from God. But God is the one who loves us unconditionally, and for there to be love, there has to be free will and an acceptance and a sacrifice. And I think that for there to be joy, there has to be a free will. So science and approaching things in a scientific way points to God, because we use our senses to explore truth. But science cannot make us believe or experience God, because if it made us, it would be like Moses striking the rock and saying, let the water out. Science cannot make us believe and experience the life of God, because joy and love and the life of God has to be a free will acceptance on our part. So joy is an attitude of the soul. The suffering plus the trust, the acceptance. When Jesus died on the cross, he said, why have you forsaken me? You've taken away my friends, he was in excruciating pain. His mother saw him suffering. His dignity was taken away. He was calumniated. Everything. But because he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? He's quoting the Psalms, and we can infer, but I trust in you, because all the Psalms are about that. I may have everything, even my very being taken from me, but I trust in the Lord, and so I have everything. And that bit of joy, that little seed of joy that the Lord shows us on the cross, that is a modus. In Latin, modus is a mode, which is a mode of being, a mode of moving. Modus, it happens in music. You have a lot of these church modes, so in medieval times they wrote in different church modes. A modus is a way of moving. So joy is a mode, and joy is related to adventure, which you talk about a lot, adventure and triumph. So when Jesus said, why have you forsaken me? He's talking to the Lord. It's an act of triumph. You can take everything from me, and I trust in the Lord. I have everything still because I have the Lord. And that joy is the experience of God's Spirit. So when we have that experience of God's Spirit in us, we accept it. We take on that attitude, and then we say, yes, we believe in God. So I hope that makes some sense. I can illustrate it some more ways. G.K. Chesterton, one of my favorite authors of all time, and I would imagine you have read him, but if not, then Everlasting Man and Orthodoxy, you gotta read those two. Dr. Peterson, if you haven't read them, please read those two. Chesterton says, an adventure is an inconvenience rightly considered. So it's about that attitude, that modus, that joy through challenges that makes it an adventure, that makes us participate in the Spirit of God. And then we can know interiorly, because it's not just a triumph over death, not just a triumph over physical death, but spiritual death. The spiritual death of victimhood, poor me, why does this happen to me, I want this, I'm not satisfied. It's a victory over all of that. The spirit of adventure, the spirit of joy. You can take everything from me, but I trust in you. And that's how I'm defining joy, and I'm sure we could go on and explore this concept. But the reason I want you to think about this concept is because that's where you experience the Spirit of God. So look at the, this is not the Pietà, but you know the Pietà. And when Mother Mary is holding Jesus who's died in her arms, that beautiful sculpture by Michelangelo, her face is not contorted by grief, but she's obviously sad, but on her face is this peace. And that's the joy that I'm talking about. So when you voluntarily say, I'm going to have that modus in my life, you're participating in the Spirit of God. So I hope that makes sense, and that there are some seeds there of truth, and that by miracle you see this video. If you do, if God wants you to see it, He will. If not, may it do some good according to His will and His kingdom. May you continue your work. I'm very, very grateful for what you've done for me and my family, and I hope that you continue to explore truth. God bless you and your family.